We begin this hour with the new Democratic ticket, completely reimagined from just weeks ago, reshaping the 2024 presidential race. Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz are hitting the road to meet voters in battleground states. Today, they will travel to Wisconsin and Michigan to shore up support in the blue wall. The two made their first appearance together yesterday in front of a crowd in Philadelphia. During his speech, Governor Walz made a big splash with voters, holding nothing back against the Donald Trump campaign.
If Trump gets a chance to return, he's going to pick up exactly where he left off 4 years ago. Donald Trump's not fighting for you or your family. He never sat at that kitchen table like the one I grew up at, wondering how we were going to pay the bills. He sat at his country club up in Mar-a-Lago, wondering how he can cut taxes for his rich friends. And I got to tell you, his running mate shares his dangerous and backward agenda for this country.
And we have team coverage following the campaigns this morning with CBS News campaign reporters Aaron Navarro and Jake Rosen both standing by. Aaron, I want to start with you first. You were there at that rally last night. What stood out?
Chanel, good to be with you. In addition to this being the debut of the Harris-Walz ticket, this is also the debut of Vice President Harris's campaign and candidacy in Pennsylvania, a crucial battleground state, 19 electoral college votes. And what stuck out to me is I had been covering President Biden's events for most of this year before he decided to leave the race. The energy that was at this Harris rally in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia was much different. It was at such a heightened level that once Walz was brought out, that was really the peak of the energy. Now, in terms of the messaging, Walz's background was really the focus of his speech as his campaign and the Harris campaign looked to portray him and pitch him to those more rural Midwestern voters.
And I'll ask you, Aaron, as well, how did voters in Pennsylvania respond to Governor Josh Shapiro not being the choice for Harris's running mate?
What I heard was bittersweet emotions, people pleased that he remains the governor of the state. But I talked to a few people that thought that he was going to be the pick going in. I do have some voters of voters that were open to Tim Walz as well. I want to toss to that.
He's not an elitist. He's a regular guy, what you would call a Joe Smo that grew up humble beginnings. You know, he's not an elitist. You know, he knows what it's like to be poor.
We already knew that Walz had like a great resume coming into this, but seeing him and Kamala's resumes side by side and the energy that they brought, I felt like it was kind of the cherry on top to realize that like this is the direction we want to move as a country.
So that was just an example of some of the sound we heard from voters in Philadelphia feeling very energized after seeing the ticket.
And Aaron, Governor Walz also said that he's ready to face J.D. Vance in a debate and wasn't shy about going after the Trump campaign, calling them creepy and weird. Talk about the intention behind that sort of language.
Well, this was the line that Tim Walz really saw his potential candidacy for vice president rise, was when in a press conference he referred to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and just, MAGA Republicans, in his word, as weird dudes. And during the rally itself, while he was talking about J.D. Vance, you would hear the crowd chant, quote, "He's a weirdo," really tapping into what Walz's message is, which on its face is just creating a contrast between the Democratic Party, that they are portraying themselves to be connected with the everyday voter, and the Republican Party that they say are out of touch and more aligned with the billionaire class.
Aaron Navarro, thank you. Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance will make stops in Michigan and Wisconsin for a pair of speeches today. Yesterday, he held a campaign stop in Philadelphia and wasted no time going on the offensive against new Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz.
Tim Walz's record is a joke. He's been one of the most far-left radicals in the entire United States government at any level. But I think that what Tim Walz's selection says is that Kamala Harris has bent the knee to the far left of her party, which is what she always does.
And CBS News campaign reporter Jake Rosen joins me now for more on what's happening with the Trump campaign. And so, Jake, now that we know who J.D. Vance will be up against, what is the Trump campaign strategy?
Well, the Trump campaign has tried to frame Governor Walz as you just heard, far left. They tried to call him dangerously liberal in a press release yesterday from a press secretary right after the Walz news was announced. In the last 24 hours or so, they've gone after him for his handling of the Black Lives Matter protests in Minneapolis and in Minnesota in the wake of the George Floyd murders, saying that he did not call the National Guard. Well, that's untrue. He did call it just a couple of days later and before President Trump activated the National Guard to go into the state. They also criticized him on things like immigration because he signed a bill allowing undocumented migrants to receive some subsidized health care in addition to driver's licenses in his state, and things like the economy, tying him to the Biden and Harris economic agenda.
And we also know, Jake, that Vance will be making stops in some of the same states as Harris. Is this counter-programming working among voters? I mean, what are you hearing from folks on the ground?
So I was at a stop with J.D. Vance last week in Arizona, where Vice President Harris will be today. And kind of what I heard from voters there was that they knew J.D. Vance from Hillbilly Elegy. They knew him from the book and the movie. They knew his platform that he ran on when he first was elected senator in 2022, but they were still getting to know him too. And so as he kind of crisscrosses the country, the reality is he has to define himself. The Trump campaign has to help him do that. But this also comes as Vice President Harris and Governor Walz are seeking to define their platform. So J.D. Vance has to kind of meet voters face-to-face, kind of campaign trail style again, not just from behind a lectern, but do these kind of smaller, rapid-paced events around the country. And voters, yes, were excited for him, but they also wanted to kind of hear what he had to say for himself, not just repeating kind of the things that they knew about him and his story, because that seems to be the most popular thing that people did know when he was announced.
Okay, Jake, thank you so much.